The workplace you are in now, right now, will change dramatically in the next 10 years. This is because of a trend that is happening. And my own story is an early sign of this trend. 15 years ago, in my final year of university, in a small town in North Carolina, on a beautiful Tuesday morning in September, I walked out of my French class and saw a group of people clustered around a TV screen. This seemed unusual for a Tuesday morning, so I walked over to join them, just in time to see the second plane hit the second tower. And I watched as people jumped out of those gigantic buildings. I watched them fall, and then I saw the second tower collapse. I remember 9/11 like it was yesterday. I remember how the president of my university gathered the whole campus together in a room and talked about how the university would prosecute anyone who would target religious or racial minorities. That was the day I knew my life would be different than I imagined. A few months later, when I graduated, I shocked my friends and family by turning down a prestigious job where I would be making $50,000 a year at the age of 22. I went back home to India to work in social entrepreneurship for a salary of $200 a month. For me, this was just the beginning. But the trend it represents has been so far like a ripple, gently lapping at the shores of the global economy. But now it is swelling in size, and soon will become a tidal wave of change. What is this trend? It is the quest to build a career of meaning and impact. But why is it happening? And why are our education systems not ready for it? My career in social entrepreneurship began in India, but over the next decade, it took me all around the world and back to the US. Through this work, I began to receive invitations to speak at many universities. The bright young master's students in my classes were hungry for career advice. How can I build a career like yours in the social sector, they asked me. Student after student, talk after talk, the tide was coming in. The size of the waves today is a little bit more obvious, even if they're still a little ways offshore. More and more people under the age of 35 are looking to build careers where they are willing to earn less if they can do work that makes a difference. These people's faith was shattered by the financial crisis in 2008 in big institutions. There are many pieces of evidence out there, but consider just one. Take the organization Escape the City, which helps people find more fulfilling careers. They began in London 5 years ago with just 50 members. Today, they are up to 230,000 people from all around the world. There is a hunger out there for careers of meaning. If you've been working in human resources or in higher education, you've seen this coming for some time. After I spoke at a university in the US, one of the students contacted me afterwards. She was 23 years old, earnest, American, studying conflict resolution. She wanted advice on how to build a career in peace building internationally. Have you ever been to a conflict zone? I asked her. No, she replied. Have you ever lived outside the United States? No. I was stunned. Have you ever traveled outside the US? Well, I studied in France as an exchange student, she replied. I tried to tell her that if she had never been to a conflict zone or even to a developing country, then there was little chance that she could get hired in peace building. And that her first job was to fix that gap, that hole in her CV. That her real education was only just beginning. You're probably starting to get a sense for this trend, but let's go deeper. Let me ask you, what is truly the purpose of adult learning? I believe it is to help people build the skills to lead the lives they dream of. The word most commonly used for this is purpose. The Happiness Research Institute has found that having a sense of purpose is the single biggest predictor of job satisfaction, and that it ranks twice as high as the next thing on the list, which is having a good manager. So the job of higher education is to help people find and prepare for their purpose. You see how these waves of change are starting to get bigger. Surfs up across the economy. But wait, there is more. The study also found that purpose did not mean something easy. In fact, the opposite. That having a purpose is something challenging. It's striving towards a goal that you care about. Now we're getting to the heart of the issue. Because purpose is great, but it is too often framed in the context of oneself. What is my purpose, we ask? And that gets stale after a while. Because it is easy for your sense of purpose to remain here, between your ears, or here, inside your heart. That by itself doesn't change anything. What does change things, what never gets stale, is making a difference in the lives of others. This is not new. Buddhism has shown us that once you attain enlightenment, what you want to do is make an impact on others. From inner understanding comes outward impact. So we should start with purpose, but our sights should really be set on making an impact. However, and here's the catch, the unfortunate secret that most workshops and courses on finding your purpose will not tell you. It is not easy to make a difference in the world. In fact, it is excruciatingly difficult. I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs who have changed the world, and I say that with a straight face because I've seen them do it. And I'm here to tell you, reporting from the front lines of social impact, that the world does not want to change. It does not want to be saved. It will enthusiastically resist your attempts to save it. Which means that you have to train for this career intensely. It's amazing to me that we think a regular university degree would be enough. No, we have to train the way a doctor trains, or an Olympic athlete. We have to be prepared to work really hard and for a really long time in order to succeed. We have to realize it is just as much a lifestyle as it is a career. We sometimes joke that a true marketing slogan for this type of career would go something like this. You'll work harder, you'll fail more, you'll make less money. Come join us. So making an impact is hard. It is not surprising then that just as I was seeing these waves of people come in, that I was also hearing from employers around the world that their biggest challenge was a talent shortage, a lack of enough people with the skills they needed. One morning on a bus in India, full of social entrepreneurs heading to a global conference, one of them leaned across the aisle to me, his glasses bumping along with the potholes in the road, but his eyes staring at me, unblinking as he spoke. I sit across the table from these graduates of the best universities, and I'm waiting for them to tell me something, anything that will allow me to hire them. I rarely hear it. The situation is desperate. So these two things, on one hand, large waves of people looking for meaningful work, and on the other hand, employers having a hard time finding skilled people, these two data points started colliding in my brain, making me restless and nerdy and spending my weekends reading about the history of the university. When I saw this article in The Economist, and everything clicked into place. This edition of The Economist changed my life. It's funny for me, a lover of poetry and literature, to look back and realize that if there was one thing that changed my life, one piece of writing, it was a fairly dry special report from The Economist. In this report, the famous consulting firm McKinsey described how talent is every company's biggest barrier to growth, and that the reason for the talent shortage was that educators and employers operated in two separate universes. So this mismatch, between what employers really want and what universities are designed to do, this market failure in higher education was not something a few social entrepreneurs were telling me. It was not an obscure problem only affecting the social sector. It was at the very heart of the global economy. So if we wanted to close this gap, it wouldn't be enough to just improve higher education. We had to find a new way of doing it. We felt a sense of urgency. That's how my co-founder, Elena, and I decided to start Amani Institute, to try and answer that question we were hearing all the time. How do I have a career that makes a difference? Or, in other words, how do you learn how to change the world? Although we had master's degrees from world-class universities, we saw what was missing in them compared to what we learned in our jobs, and we set out to design the type of masters we would have wanted to do. We quit our jobs and the promise of green cards in America, and we moved to Africa. We believed that if we were going to preach about the importance of taking risks towards building a meaningful career, we had to walk our own talk, to take a risk ourselves, and so live our values. We're in our 4th year now, and more than 130 people from 34 countries have gone through our intensive 10-month program in social innovation management. In the program, we focus on building the skills most desired by employers. We make sure you get a hands-on experience of what it is like to make change. And we curate for each person a conversation with themselves to explore their vision for change and understand how to build a career around it. Think of it as a master's in global change-making held in the emerging markets of Kenya and Brazil. Through it, we're developing skilled professionals who show that it is possible to both make a living and make a difference at the same time. Our fellows have come from every stage of the professional life cycle, from early career millennials to mid-career burnouts to late career individuals contemplating their legacies. They're all looking not just for purpose, but also for impact. And by the way, when I talk about impact, I'm not talking about a rush towards NGOs. There is just as much meaning and impact to be had in, for example, being the sustainability officer at an oil company or the human rights officer at a Department of Defense, as there is in running a program for street kids or in saving the elephants. Okay, maybe there's nothing more important than saving the elephants. Remember the worst marketing slogan of all time? At Amani Institute, this is what we would add to it. You'll be happier. You'll make the world better. You'll leave a legacy to be proud of. Now are you ready for the challenge? Yes, I believe you are. I'll close with one final story. This is a picture from one of our classes. In the screen at the back of the room, you see this graphic with 4 circles. It is an adapted version of the hedgehog concept, which is that you find your purpose at the intersection of 1, what you love doing, 2, what you're good at doing, 3, what the market will pay you for, and 4, what the world needs from you. In this picture, one of our faculty, Gigi, is helping our fellows figure out their answers to those 4 circles. Like most groups, they were struggling with that 4th circle. But Gigi gently and firmly kept pushing the point home. What does the world need from you? She asked each of them. Not all of them knew. Do you? Maybe not. And of course, that's fine. For now, it's the question that counts. But as the waves rise, it is a question you are going to be hearing more and more as the people that you study with and work with and live with begin to ask that question for themselves. They will learn their answer to it by exploring their vision for change, by building the skills they need to achieve that vision, and by getting hands-on experiences of making a difference. This is how you build a career of meaning and, most importantly, of impact. See you on top of the wave. Thank you.